I found them in my bed. Not a hotel room. Not some random apartment. My bed. The one I'd been sleeping in for the past 3 years in the house I was paying for, where my fiancée lived rent-free while she found herself as an aspiring influencer. The California king with the expensive sheets she'd insisted we needed because presentation matters for her content. My bachelor party had ended 2 hours ago. Marcus, my best friend since kindergarten, my chosen best man, had been the one to suggest cutting it short. "You look exhausted, bro. Big day coming up. Let's call it." The guys had agreed. Responsible. Mature. We'd all gotten older, after all. No strippers, no Vegas. Just dinner and drinks at a nice steakhouse. The kind of bachelor party that made you feel good about yourself. I'd come home early. Drunk enough to be happy. Sober enough to be quiet. I'd wanted to surprise Jessica. Maybe slide into bed and hold her. Feel the realness of my soon-to-be wife next to me. The house was dark, except for the light under our bedroom door. I'd smiled. She was probably doing her skincare routine, the one that took 45 minutes and used products that cost more than most people's car payments. I'd teased her about it once, and she'd frozen me out for 3 days. I'd opened the door. Jessica was on top of him, her head thrown back, her perfectly highlighted hair catching the lamplight. Marcus's hands were on her waist, his eyes closed, his face twisted in pleasure. The sound she was making, I'd heard it before. I'd thought it was for me. They didn't notice me at first. I stood there for what felt like hours but was probably only seconds. Long enough for my brain to catalog every detail. The way her engagement ring, the one I'd saved for 2 years to buy, glinted as she braced herself against his chest. The way his clothes were scattered on the floor, mixed with hers. The bottle of champagne on the nightstand. My champagne, from the collection I'd been saving. The bottle we were supposed to open on our wedding night. Get out. My voice didn't sound like my voice. It was flat. Dead. Jessica's eyes snapped open. She saw me. For a moment, she froze, her mouth forming a perfect O of surprise. Then she scrambled off Marcus, grabbing a sheet. "Oh my God! Jake, this isn't—" "Get out!" Marcus sat up, his face flushed, his hair a mess. He had the decency to look ashamed for about half a second before his expression shifted into something else. Defiance, almost annoyance at being interrupted. "Jake, man, listen. You have 60 seconds to get dressed and get out of my house before I call the police and have you both arrested for trespassing." "Your house?" Jessica's voice climbed into that register she used when she was about to throw a tantrum. "This is our house. I live here." "Not anymore." I pulled out my phone and started recording. My hands weren't shaking. They should have been shaking. 50 seconds. They moved fast. Then, Jessica wrapped in the sheet, grabbing clothes. Marcus fumbling with his pants, his shirt inside out. They were talking, at me, at each other, but I wasn't listening. I was thinking about the past 3 years. Every moment I'd dismissed my gut feeling. Every time Jessica had gasped at Marcus's jokes a little too enthusiastically. Every time Marcus had found an excuse to touch her shoulder, her arm, her lower back. Every time I'd told myself I was being paranoid, that these were the 2 people I trusted most in the world. "Jake, if you'd just let me explain." Jessica's mascara was running. She looked terrible. She looked like a stranger. "Out, now." They left. Marcus grabbed his shoes on the way out. Jessica was crying. That ugly crying she saved for when she really wanted something. I followed them to the front door and locked it behind them. Then I locked the back door, checked every window, and set the security system I'd had installed 6 months ago. The house was quiet. I walked back to the bedroom and stood in the doorway, staring at the bed. Our bed. Their bed now. The sheets would have to be burned. The mattress, too. Maybe the whole room. My phone buzzed. "Marcus. Dude, I'm so sorry. We were drunk. It meant nothing. Don't throw away our friendship over this. Jessica. Jake, please call me. I love you. I made a mistake. We can work through this. Please don't do this. Marcus. She came on to me. I tried to stop her. I was too drunk. You know I would never do this to you on purpose. Jessica. It was the alcohol. It was one time, please. The wedding, everyone's flying in. Please. The wedding. 200 guests. Destination venue in Napa Valley. $50,000 I'd paid for. Another $30,000 her parents had chipped in. The deposits were non-refundable. The invitations had been sent. My parents were flying in from Ohio tomorrow. Her cousins were coming from Italy. My phone kept buzzing. I turned it off. I walked to my office, the one room in the house Jessica never entered because it wasn't aesthetic, and locked the door. Then I sat down at my desk and opened my laptop. I had work to do. Here's what Jessica didn't know. I wasn't Jake Monroe, struggling middle manager at a tech company making $80,000 a year. I was Jake Monroe, founder and former CEO of DataVault, a cloud security startup I'd built in my spare time over 7 years. The company I'd sold 18 months ago for $340 million. After taxes and splitting with my co-founders, I'd walked away with $127 million. I hadn't told anyone, not my parents, who thought I was still living paycheck to paycheck, not Marcus, who'd been hitting me up for loans since college, and definitely not Jessica, who'd gotten together with me 5 months before the acquisition closed, back when I was just another software engineer with potential. I'd had my reasons for keeping quiet. Good reasons. I'd watched too many lottery winners destroy their lives, seen too many people with sudden wealth lose everyone they loved to greed and envy. I'd wanted to know that the people in my life loved me for me, not for what I could give them. I'd planned to tell Jessica after the wedding, surprise her with the prenup I'd secretly had drawn up, one that was actually incredibly generous because I'd thought I was marrying someone honest, someone real. I'd been such a fucking idiot. My lawyer, Richard Chen, answered on the second ring despite it being almost 2 a.m. Richard was used to my odd hours. He was one of 3 people who knew the truth about my net worth, and I paid him $500 an hour to be available whenever I needed him. Jake, everything okay? I need you to do something for me, I said. Multiple things, actually, and I need them done fast. I'm listening. First, I need Jessica Wade removed from my house. I'm texting you a video right now that should make that easy. She's not on the lease, not on the deed, nothing. I want her stuff packed up and out by tomorrow afternoon. Hire people if you need to. Consider it done. What else? The wedding is off. I need you to contact the venue, the caterers, everyone. Cancel everything. I don't care about deposits, and I need a statement prepared for guests explaining that the wedding has been canceled due to the bride's infidelity. Keep it short and factual. Got it. And Richard? Start drawing up a lawsuit. Jessica has been using my credit cards for the past 3 years for her influencer business. I have records, every charge. I want her to pay back every cent, plus interest and damages. There was a pause. Jake, that's going to be expensive for her. We're talking potentially hundreds of thousands given your records. Good. What about Marcus? I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Marcus is more complicated, but I have plans for Marcus. I'll call you tomorrow with details. I hung up and opened my banking app. My main account, the one Jessica knew about, had $8,000 in it. My real accounts, spread across various investments and holdings, were handled by my financial manager in New York. Jessica thought I was careful with money. Frugal. She'd complained about it constantly. Why can't we go to Bali like the Johnsons? Why won't you buy me a better car? Why are we living in this tiny house? The house was 2,400 square feet in a nice neighborhood. Her car was a 3-year-old Audi, but it wasn't enough. It was never enough. I pulled up her Instagram, 127,000 followers. Her feed was immaculate. Perfect life. Perfect relationship. Perfect smile. Her latest post was from this afternoon. A photo of her holding a bride-to-be sash, surrounded by her bridesmaids. Caption, 48 hours until I marry my best friend. The comments were full of heart emojis and congratulations. I screenshotted everything. Then I drafted an email to her top sponsors, the makeup brands and fashion companies that gave her free products in exchange for posts. The email was simple. Proof of her fake engagement, plenty of evidence in my phone, proof that her authentic relationship content was built on lies and affairs. I didn't send it yet. That would come later. Next, I pulled up Marcus's information. Marcus Chen, junior associate at Goldman Sachs. He'd leveraged our friendship hard to get that job. I'd connected him with a friend from business school who'd put in a good word. Marcus made decent money, but he lived beyond his means. Expensive apartment in Manhattan, expensive car, expensive girlfriend. Ex-girlfriend now, I supposed. She'd dumped him 4 months ago when she found out he was cheating. He'd cried to me about it for weeks. I'd comforted him, told him he'd find someone better, bought him drinks, listened to him rationalize his behavior. The whole time, he'd been sleeping with my fiancée. I wondered how long it had been going on. Weeks? Months? Years? My phone was still off, but I turned it back on and checked the message. 73 from Jessica. 41 from Marcus. I didn't read them. Instead, I scrolled back through our text history, looking for clues. There. 3 months ago. Jessica asking if Marcus could help her move some furniture while I was out of town on a work trip. Marcus agreeing immediately. Anything for you guys? 2 months ago. Marcus suggesting a double date, just the 3 of us since he was between girls. We'd gone to dinner. I'd paid. Of course I'd paid. I always paid. 6 weeks ago, Jessica's birthday. Marcus had given her an expensive necklace. Way too much, I'd said. He'd laughed. She's going to be family. Nothing's too much for family. I'd thought it was sweet. The memories kept coming. Every time I'd worked late and come home to find Marcus leaving. Just keeping Jessica company. Every time Jessica had been irritable and distant, then suddenly affectionate after spending time with Marcus. Every time Marcus had encouraged me to take that business trip, attend that conference, work those extra hours. They'd been playing me for months, maybe longer. I spent the rest of the night working. By sunrise, I had a plan, not just for the wedding, not just for revenge, a plan for everything that came after. I was leaving, not just the relationship, not just the city, the country. I'd been looking at property in New Zealand for the past year. 5 acres outside Queenstown, mountain views, privacy. I'd planned to take Jessica there for our honeymoon, surprise her with the news that we could afford a vacation home. Another fantasy that would never happen. Now it would just be mine. Richard called at 7 a.m. sharp. The movers are at your house. They're packing up everything that belongs to Jessica. I have security there to make sure she doesn't try to show up, and I've sent the cancellation notices to all your vendors. Most are sympathetic given the video evidence. Good. What about the guests? I'm sending a mass email at 9 a.m. Factual, brief, links to your evidence in case anyone questions it. Your parents might want a heads up first. I'll call them. Jake, there's one more thing. Jessica showed up at my office an hour ago. She's demanding to speak with you. She has a lawyer with her. Looks like her father hired someone. They're threatening to sue for emotional distress, defamation, breach of promise. I laughed. Actually laughed. Let them try. That's what I told them. But Jake, this is going to get ugly. Are you prepared for that? Richard, I'm about to make it much uglier. Stand by for instructions. I hung up and called my parents. My mom answered, her voice bright and excited. Jake, we're at the airport. We land at noon. Have you heard from Jessica? She's not answering my texts. Mom, don't get on that plane. What? Why? What's wrong? The wedding is off. Jessica cheated on me. With Marcus. Silence. Then my mother's voice, tight with fury. That little bitch. My mother never swore. I'm handling it, Mom. But I need you and Dad to trust me. Go home. I'll explain everything later. But right now, I need to deal with this alone. Jake, honey, we should be there for you. Mom, please, trust me on this. Another pause. Then, okay, but you call us tonight. And Jake, whatever you're planning to do to her, make sure it hurts. I smiled for real this time. I will. By 10 a.m., the internet was on fire. I'd posted a simple statement to my private Facebook. Wedding cancelled. Evidence of infidelity available upon request. Then I'd shared the relevant photos and videos to a locked album, accessible only to wedding guests. The responses came in waves. Shock, anger, support. Jessica's friends tried to defend her at first. There must be a misunderstanding. Until they saw the evidence. Then silence from them. Or worse, deletion of comments and quiet unfriending. Marcus's employer was tagged in several posts by mutual friends from business school. This is your junior associate? Sleeping with his best friend's fiancée the night before the wedding? I hadn't tagged them. I didn't need to. The internet was doing my work for me. Jessica's Instagram was being flooded with comments. Her sponsors were distancing themselves. I watched in real time as she deleted post after post, trying to control the narrative. But it was too late. Screenshots lived forever. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. You fucking psycho! Jessica's voice was ragged from crying. You've ruined my life. Do you know what you've done? My sponsors are dropping me. My friends won't talk to me. My family is humiliated. Good. Good? Good? Jake, we can fix this. We made a mistake. One mistake. Why are you destroying everything? One mistake, I repeated softly. How long has it been going on, Jessica? What? How long? It was just last night. Don't lie to me. Not now. You've lost the privilege of lying to me. A long pause. Then, quieter. 8 months. 8 months. Almost our entire engagement. Was he the only one? Jake? Was he the only one? No. I closed my eyes. How many? Does it matter? Yes. 3, including Marcus. 3, while I was planning a wedding, saving for a honeymoon, imagining a life with her. Thank you for your honesty, I said. Don't contact me again. All future communication goes through my lawyer. Jake, please. I hung up and blocked her number. Marcus called next. I let it go to voicemail. Then I listened to it. Jake, you're being insane. Yes, we fucked up. Yes, it was wrong. But this, ruining our careers, blasting us online, that's fucking psychotic. You're taking this way too far. We were drunk. It meant nothing. You need to man up and forgive us so we can move past this. Call me back. I saved the voicemail. Then I called Richard. I need you to pull every text message between Jessica and Marcus. Every email, every DM, every communication. I want a full record of their affair. And I want it presented in the lawsuit. Jake, that's going to require subpoenas and do it, whatever it costs. You're sure about this? This isn't just about money for you, is it? No, I said. It's about making sure they understand exactly what they lost. The next few days were a blur of legal meetings, phone calls, and watching my old life disintegrate with surgical precision. Jessica's lawyer tried to negotiate. I refused every offer. Marcus tried to reach me through mutual friends. I blocked them all. The lawsuit I filed wasn't just about the money she'd spent on my credit cards, though that total came to $347,000 over 3 years. It was about fraud, misrepresentation. She'd presented herself as my partner while systematically exploiting me for financial gain. The evidence was damning. Texts to her friends bragging about training me to pay for everything. DMs with Marcus laughing about what a pushover I was. Emails with her mother discussing how to lock down the relationship so she'd be set for life. They'd been playing me from the beginning. But here's what they didn't know. What nobody knew. I'd been documenting everything. Not because I suspected her, I genuinely hadn't, but because I was paranoid about finances. Every receipt, every transaction, every conversation about money. I'd kept records because that's what careful people do. Now those records were weapons. Jessica's father called me personally. He was a retired banker, used to being the smartest guy in the room. Jake, let's be reasonable here. You're young, you're hurt, I understand. But this lawsuit will bankrupt my daughter. Is that really what you want? Yes. Come on, son. She made a mistake. Haven't you ever made a mistake? Mr. Wade, your daughter didn't make a mistake. She made a series of calculated choices over 3 years to defraud me out of hundreds of thousands of dollars while cheating on me with multiple men, including my best friend. That's not a mistake. That's a pattern of behavior. You're really going to do this? Destroy a young woman's life over some credit card bills? I'm going to hold her accountable for her actions. If that destroys her life, that's on her. He hung up. 3 hours later, Jessica's lawyer called with a settlement offer. She'd pay back $50,000 over 5 years, and we'd both sign NDAs. I countered $347,000 plus interest and legal fees, paid in full within 60 days, no NDA, and a public apology on her social media acknowledging the fraud and infidelity. They rejected it. We went to court. The preliminary hearing was brutal. Jessica showed up in a conservative dress with minimal makeup, playing the victim. Her lawyer painted me as a vengeful ex using my wealthy resources to bully a young woman who'd made a mistake. That was their first error, acknowledging I had wealthy resources. My lawyer asked one question. Ms. Wade, did you or did you not represent yourself as Mr. Monroe's committed partner while engaging in multiple affairs and spending over $300,000 of his money? It's not that simple. It's a yes or no question. Yes, but no further questions. The judge ordered her to pay pending a full trial. She didn't have the money. Her parents refused to help. They were furious at being humiliated in their social circle. Her credit cards were maxed out. She filed for bankruptcy. I watched it all from New Zealand. I'd left the country 3 weeks after the bachelor party. Packed one suitcase, transferred my funds to international accounts, and bought a one-way ticket to Auckland. Richard handled everything else: the house sale, the lawsuit, the ongoing fallout. The property I'd bought was perfect. 5 acres of rolling hills, a modern house with floor-to-ceiling windows, complete privacy. I spent my days hiking, reading, working on a new business idea. No social media, no dating apps, just silence and space and the slow process of rebuilding myself. Marcus's life fell apart more slowly, but just as completely. Goldman Sachs didn't fire him. That would have required formal misconduct charges. But he was quietly pushed out. Not a culture fit. His professional reputation was destroyed. Nobody wanted to work with someone who'd betray his best friend. He tried to reinvent himself, moved to California, started over. But in the finance world, reputation is everything. People talked. Every interview ended the same way. We'll be in touch. Jessica tried to rebuild her influencer career, but couldn't escape the scandal. Every post was flooded with comments about the cheating. Sponsors wouldn't touch her. She got a job at a Sephora, then quit after 3 months because she couldn't handle the humiliation of her former followers seeing her there. Last I heard, She'd moved back in with her parents. I didn't feel good about any of it. Not really. I felt empty. Like I'd won a war, but lost. Something fundamental in the process. My ability to trust, maybe. My belief that people were basically good. But I also felt free. 6 months after I left, I was sitting on my deck watching the sunset over the mountains when my phone rang. International number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Jake Monroe? This is Detective Sarah Chen with the NYPD. I'm calling about Marcus Chen. My stomach dropped. What about him? I understand you two were close friends at one point. I'm sorry to inform you that Marcus died 3 days ago. Apparent suicide. The world tilted. What? He left a note. It mentioned you. Something about how he'd destroyed the best friendship he'd ever had and couldn't live with the guilt. I'm calling because you're listed as his emergency contact. He never updated it. I sat down slowly. I don't understand. There's going to be an investigation, standard procedure, but it looks straightforward. I'm sorry for your loss. She hung up. I sat there as the sun set, my phone in my hands, trying to feel something. Grief. Guilt. Satisfaction. Anything. I felt nothing. Marcus was dead. He'd killed himself. Because of what he'd done. Because of what I'd done in response. I should feel something. I tried to remember the good times. Kindergarten Marcus, who'd shared his crayons with me. Middle school Marcus, who'd stood up to my bullies. College Marcus, who'd held my hair back when I got too drunk at parties. Best man Marcus, who'd given a beautiful speech at what would have been my rehearsal dinner. But all I could see was Marcus in my bed with Jessica. Marcus's texts laughing about what a pushover I was. Marcus's face when I'd walked in, not ashamed but annoyed. The good times felt like lies now. Had any of it been real, or had I just been useful? I called Richard. I heard, he said quietly. I was going to call you. Did I do this? Jake, did I kill him? No. Marcus made his own choices. You responded to those choices. You're not responsible for his guilt. I destroyed his career, his reputation, everything. He destroyed your life first. He betrayed you in the worst possible way. And now he's dead. Richard was quiet for a long moment. Do you wish you'd handled it differently? Did I? No, I said finally. I don't. Does that make me a monster? It makes you human. Jake, you didn't pull the trigger. You didn't tell him to kill himself. You just refused to let him off the hook for his actions. That's not the same thing. We talked for another hour. Richard was good at his job, both the legal parts and the human parts. By the time I hung up, I still felt hollow, but at least I felt like I could breathe. I didn't go to Marcus's funeral. I sent flowers anonymously. White roses. Not sorry, just acknowledging the death of something that had been important once. Jessica messaged me through a new number Richard must have given her. I heard about Marcus. Are you happy now? You've killed him. You've destroyed my life. I hope you're fucking satisfied. I blocked the number without responding. 3 days later, my mom called. Jake, honey, I heard about Marcus. How are you holding up? I'm fine, Mom. Jake? I don't know, Mom. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel. You're supposed to feel however you feel. There's no right answer here. Did I go too far? She was quiet for a moment. Then, do you remember when you were 8 and Tommy Rodriguez stole your bike? Yeah. And you spent 6 months saving your allowance to buy it back from him because you were too afraid to tell anyone what happened? Mom, and then when Dad found out, he marched you down to Tommy's house and made you stand up for yourself. And Tommy gave back your bike and apologized? What's your point? My point is that you've spent your whole life being too nice, too accommodating, too willing to accept less than you deserve because you don't want to cause problems. And for once, you stood up for yourself. You demanded accountability. You refused to be a doormat. Maybe Marcus couldn't handle that. Maybe the guilt was too much. But that's not on you. You were finally putting yourself first. I closed my eyes. It doesn't feel like winning. That's because you're a good person. If you felt good about this, I'd be worried. But Jake, I'm proud of you. I wish you'd stood up for yourself years ago. I wish I'd taught you to do it sooner. We talked until I felt less like I was drowning. Life went on. That's the strange thing about tragedy. It doesn't stop the world. The sun still rises. Bills still need to be paid. Life insists on continuing. I threw myself into a new project, a cybersecurity consulting firm that operated entirely remotely. I hired people I'd worked with before, people I trusted. We worked on interesting problems for good money, and I got to stay in New Zealand where nobody knew my history. After a year, I started therapy. Not because I felt guilty. I'd made peace with my choices. But because I realized I needed to rebuild my ability to trust people. To believe that not everyone was like Jessica and Marcus. My therapist was a kind woman in her 60s named Margaret, who specialized in betrayal trauma. "You're not broken," she told me in our 5th session. "You're appropriately cautious. What happened to you was devastating. Multiple betrayals from the people closest to you. It makes perfect sense that you'd struggle with trust." How do I fix it? You don't fix it. You learn to live with it. You take small risks with new people. You pay attention to actions, not words. You give yourself permission to walk away at the first sign of disrespect. And slowly, over time, you build a new understanding of relationships. What if I never trust anyone again? Then you'll have a quieter life. That's not the worst thing in the world. But Jake, I don't think that's what you really want. She was right. I didn't want to be alone forever. I just didn't know how to open up without feeling like I was setting myself up to be destroyed again. The 2nd year in New Zealand, I met someone. Her name was Emma. She was a veterinarian from Australia, and she was visiting Queenstown for a hiking trip. We literally bumped into each other on a trail. I was looking at the scenery, she was looking at her map, and we collided hard enough that we both fell down. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry!" She was laughing, sprawled in the dirt, her hiking poles scattered around her. I helped her up. She had dirt on her face and leaves in her hair, and she was grinning like it was the funniest thing that had ever happened to her. "I'm Emma. Clearly, I'm terrible at navigation." "Jake. Clearly, I'm terrible at watching where I'm going." We hiked together for the next 4 hours. She talked about her practice, the animals she treated, her family back in Melbourne. I told her I was a consultant, that I'd moved to New Zealand for a fresh start. I didn't tell her why. We exchanged numbers. She was in town for 2 more weeks. We saw each other every day. On her last night, we had dinner at a restaurant overlooking the lake. The conversation had been easy, light, comfortable. Then she looked at me seriously. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Why did you really move here? You don't have to tell me, but I feel like there's a story you're not telling." I could have lied. I could have given her the sanitized version. Instead, I told her the truth. All of it. The bachelor party, the betrayal, the revenge, Marcus's death. Everything. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. "I'm sorry that happened to you," she said finally. That's a lot." "Yeah." "Do you regret how you handled it?" "Sometimes. Not the accountability part. They deserved consequences. But I wonder if I pushed too hard. If I let anger drive me when I should have just walked away quietly." "Did they give you the option to walk away quietly?" "No." "Then I think you did what you needed to do to survive." She reached across the table and took my hand. You're not a bad person for refusing to be a victim. Something in my chest loosened. I'm damaged goods, I said. I don't trust easily. I probably never will. If you're looking for someone uncomplicated, I'm not your guy. She smiled. I'm a vet. I specialize in rescuing difficult animals. I think I can handle you. We didn't rush into anything. Emma went back to Australia. We video chatted every day. She visited a month later for a week. Then I visited her in Melbourne. Slowly, carefully, we built something real. She never asked me to be someone I wasn't. She never pushed me to trust faster than I could. She just showed up, consistently, honestly, and proved through her actions that not everyone was like Jessica. 2 years after the bachelor party, I proposed, not with a big production, not with a ring I'd been saving for. I asked her on a random Tuesday while we were cooking dinner together, because I'd realized that this quiet, easy partnership was what I'd been looking for all along. Marry me, I said. She looked up from the vegetables she was chopping. Are you serious? Completely. That was possibly the worst proposal in history. I know. Marry me anyway. She laughed. Okay, yes, but we're eloping. No big wedding, no drama, just us and whatever ridiculous adventure we decide on. We got married 3 months later at a registry office in Queenstown. The witnesses were 2 strangers we pulled off the street. We had lunch afterward at a cafe, then went home and watched movies in our pajamas. It was perfect. Jessica found out somehow, probably through mutual friends on social media. She sent one final message through an account Richard couldn't block fast enough. I hope you're happy. You got everything you wanted. A new life, a new wife, all that money you were hiding. I hope it was worth destroying everyone who ever cared about you. I showed it to Emma. Should I be worried about her? Emma asked. No, she's just angry that I moved on. Are you happy? Emma asked. I thought about it. Really thought about it. Was I happy? Yeah, I said. I am. And I was. Not the naive happiness I'd had before, the kind that came from not knowing how badly people could hurt you. This was different. Harder earned. More real. I was happy the way soldiers are happy after surviving a war, grateful to be alive, aware of how fragile everything is, protective of the peace I'd built. Emma kissed me. Good. Then she didn't win. The 3rd year, I started sleeping better. The nightmares faded. I stopped checking Jessica's social media to see if she was suffering. I stopped keeping tabs on Marcus's family to see how they were coping with his death. I let go. Not forgiveness. I didn't owe them that. But release. I released the anger, the need for revenge, the obsessive mental replay of everything that had gone wrong. They'd taken 3 years of my life. I wasn't going to give them any more. Richard called once a year with updates. Jessica had paid off the lawsuit by working 3 jobs and borrowing money from her parents. She'd disappeared from social media entirely. She'd apparently moved to a different state. Changed her name. She's trying to start over, Richard said. Good for her. You mean that? I mean, I don't care. She's not my problem anymore. My consulting business grew. Emma's practice expanded. We bought a dog, then a 2nd dog. We talked about kids someday. We traveled, carefully, strategically, to places that made us happy, rather than places that looked good on Instagram. I never told her about the full extent of my wealth. Not to hide it, but because it didn't matter. She made good money. I made good money. We split expenses fairly. If we ever needed the bulk of my net worth, I'd tell her. But for now, it sat in investments, growing quietly, insurance against a future catastrophe. I'd learned the hard way that you can't buy loyalty. You can't buy love. You can only find people who value you for who you are, then treat them with the respect and honesty they deserve. 4 years after the bachelor party, my dad had a heart attack. Massive. Survivable, but just barely. My mom called me at 3 a.m., her voice shaking. "Jake, it's your father. You need to come home." Emma and I were on a plane 12 hours later. My dad survived. Bypass surgery, long recovery, but he survived. I stayed in Ohio for 6 weeks, working remotely, helping my mom, sitting with my dad in the hospital, and then at home. One afternoon, when Mom was out grocery shopping, Dad and I were alone. He was in his recliner, still weak, but finally looking like he might actually live. "Jake," he said, "I need to tell you something." "You need to rest, Dad." "No, I need to say this." He struggled to sit up straighter. "When you called off the wedding, your mother and I were furious. Not at you. At Jessica, at Marcus, at the situation. But we were also relieved." "What?" "We never liked her. We thought she was using you, too focused on money, on status, on what you could do for her. But you seemed happy, so we kept our mouths shut." "Why didn't you say something?" "Because you were an adult making your own choices, and because sometimes people need to learn lessons the hard way." He looked at me seriously. "But Jake, I've been thinking about this a lot, about what happened, about how you handled it, and I'm worried." "Worried about what?" "That you did the right thing for the wrong reasons, that you burned everything down not because you deserved better, but because you were angry, and anger is a terrible foundation for life decisions." I sat back. "Are you saying I shouldn't have left? That I should have forgiven her?" "No. I'm saying you should make sure you left because you wanted something better, not just because you wanted to hurt her back." "Does it matter?" "Either way, I'm not with her. It matters for the next woman, and the one after that. It matters because if you left out of anger, you're still carrying that anger. But if you left because you knew you deserved better, then you're free." I thought about Emma, about our quiet life, our easy partnership, our simple joy in each other's company. "I think I'm free," I said. Dad smiled. "Good. Then my job here is done. Now help me up. I need to piss." We laughed, and the heavy moment passed. I stayed until Dad was stable, then Emma and I flew back to New Zealand. But something had shifted. Dad's words stuck with me. Had I left out of anger? Or had I left because I knew I deserved better? I thought about the lawsuit, the public shaming, the systematic destruction of Jessica's life. Would I do it again? Honestly, I didn't know. I'd needed the anger at the time. Needed the action, the control, the ability to fight back. If I'd just walked away quietly, I think the betrayal would have destroyed me. I needed to prove to myself that I wasn't powerless. But now, years later, I could see how destructive it had been. Not just to Jessica, but to me. I'd spent months consumed with revenge, watching her suffer, tracking every consequence. That wasn't healing. That was just different kind of poison. If I could do it over, I'd still leave. I'd still cancel the wedding, still pursue the lawsuit for the money she'd stolen. But I wouldn't have needed to destroy her so completely. I wouldn't have needed to make sure the whole world knew what she'd done. I would have just left, quietly, decisively, and focused on building something new rather than demolishing something old. But I couldn't change the past. I could only move forward. 5 years after the bachelor party, Emma got pregnant. It wasn't planned. We'd been loosely talking about kids. Someday, but it wasn't unwanted either. "Well," Emma said, staring at the positive test. "Guess we're doing this." "Guess so." She looked at me seriously. "Are you okay with this? Really okay? I know you have complicated feelings about family and trust. I'm terrified, I admitted. But I'm okay. With you, I'm okay. Our daughter was born in December. We named her Sophie. She was tiny and screaming and perfect, and when I held her for the first time, I cried for the first time in 5 years. Not sad tears, not angry tears, just overwhelmed by the weight of this tiny person, by the responsibility, by the pure terror of loving something this much. You're going to be a great dad, Emma said from the hospital bed. How do you know? Because you know what not to do. You know what betrayal feels like, what neglect feels like, what false loyalty looks like. You'll never do those things to her. She was right. Being a parent cracked me open in ways I didn't expect. Every time Sophie smiled at me, every time she reached for me, every time she fell asleep on my chest, it was trust. Pure, uncomplicated, unearned trust. And I had to be worthy of it. I had to be the kind of man who deserved that trust, who protected it, who honored it. I had to be better than Jessica, better than Marcus, better than the person I'd been when I'd spent months orchestrating revenge instead of just healing. So I became better. I taught Sophie about honesty, about kindness, about standing up for herself without tearing others down. I taught her that she was valuable not for what she could give people, but for who she was. And in teaching her, I learned it myself. 7 years after the bachelor party, I was at a cafe in Queenstown with Sophie when I saw someone who looked familiar. A woman, mid-30s, tired-looking, carrying a coffee and a laptop bag. It took me a second to place her. Jessica. She'd lost weight. Her hair was shorter, darker, no longer the highlighted perfection she'd maintained for Instagram. She wore jeans and a plain sweater. No makeup, no designer anything. She looked normal, tired, human. She saw me at the same moment. Her face went white. For a second, we just stared at each other. Then Sophie tugged on my hand. Daddy, you said we could get cookies. Jessica looked at Sophie, then back at me. Something complicated crossed her face. Regret, maybe, or grief. Recognition of a life that could have been hers if she'd made different choices. Hi, Jake, she said quietly. Jessica. Is this your daughter, Sophie? She's beautiful. Thank you. We stood there awkwardly. Sophie looked between us, confused by the tension. I'm sorry, Jessica said finally. For everything. I know it doesn't mean anything now, but I'm sorry. I looked at her. Really looked at her. She meant it. I could see it in her face, in the way she held herself. She was genuinely sorry. Okay, I said. That's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say? I don't know. That you forgive me? That you hate me? Something. I thought about it. Did I forgive her? Did I hate her? I don't hate you, I said. But I don't forgive you either. I'm indifferent. You're part of my past, and that past made me who I am now. I'm grateful for who I am now. So in a weird way, I guess I'm grateful for what happened. But that doesn't mean I forgive it. She nodded slowly. That's fair. What are you doing in New Zealand? Fresh start. Like you, I guess. I moved here 6 months ago, working remotely, trying to rebuild my life. She smiled, and it was sad. Turns out running from your past doesn't actually work. It follows you everywhere. Yeah, it does. Are you happy? She asked. Really happy? I looked down at Sophie, who was still tugging on my hand, impatient for those cookies. Yeah, I said. I really am. Good, that's good. Jessica hitched her laptop bag higher on her shoulder. I should go. It was good to see you, Jake. I'm glad you found happiness. Jessica? She paused. I hope you find it too. Real happiness. The kind that doesn't come from Instagram likes or other people's money. The real thing. Her eyes got shiny. Thank you. She walked away. Sophie looked up at me. Who was that lady? Someone I used to know. She seemed sad. Yeah, she did. Can we get cookies now? I laughed and picked her up. Yes, let's get cookies. That night I told Emma about running into Jessica. How do you feel? Emma asked. Weird. Not angry, not vindictive, just weird. Like seeing a character from a book I read a long time ago. That's probably healthy. Probably. I was quiet for a moment. She apologized, and I think she meant it. Does that change anything? No, but it feels like closure, like the last chapter finally got written. Emma kissed me. Good. Then you can stop carrying it around. She was right. I had been carrying it. Not the anger anymore, but the story. The identity of being the guy who got betrayed, who got revenge, who won. It had defined me for years, but I didn't need it anymore. I was just Jake now, Emma's husband, Sophie's dad, a man who'd survived something terrible and built something beautiful on the other side. That was enough. 10 years after the bachelor party, Emma and I took Sophie to the States to visit my parents. Dad was fully recovered, Mom was retired, and they were obsessed with their granddaughter. We drove past the old house, the one I'd owned when Jessica and I were together. New owners had repainted it, added a garden, put up a swing set in the yard. That's where Daddy used to live, I told Sophie. Why don't you live there anymore? Because I found a better place, a better life. In New Zealand? Exactly. She accepted this with the easy logic of a child. Why question it? New Zealand was all she'd ever known. It was home. That night, after Sophie was asleep, my mom and I sat on the back porch drinking wine. You seem happy, Mom said. I am. Really? Not just making the best of it happy, but actually happy? Really, she smiled. Good. You deserve it, after everything. Mom, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you think I went too far? With Jessica? With all of it? She was quiet for a long time. Honestly? At the time, I thought you were absolutely justified. She hurt you, she used you, she deserved everything she got. But now, looking back, I think you probably went farther than you needed to. I think you were hurt and angry and you had the resources to really make her pay, so you did. You're saying I was wrong? No. I'm saying you were human. You reacted the way most people would react if they had your resources and your pain. But Jake, you're not that person anymore. You've grown past it, and that's what matters. What if I hadn't? What if I'd stayed angry? Then you'd be miserable. Then Jessica would have won because she'd have stolen your future as well as your past. But you didn't let her do that. You built something new. You became someone better. That's the real victory. I thought about that for a long time. Years later, I would tell Sophie the full story, not the sanitized version, but the real one. About Jessica, about Marcus, about the betrayal, and the revenge, and the lessons learned. Why are you telling me this? Sophie asked. She was 16, smart, starting to think about relationships and trust, and all the complicated things that come with being human. Because I want you to understand something, I said. When people hurt you, you have choices. You can destroy them if you have the power to do that. You can make them suffer the way they made you suffer. And sometimes that might even feel justified. But Sophie, that kind of revenge, It's poison. It might feel good in the moment, but it corrupts you. It makes you into someone you don't want to be. So what should I do instead? Set boundaries. Demand respect. Walk away from people who don't value you. Protect yourself. But don't let hurting them become more important than healing yourself. Don't let revenge become your identity. Did you let it become your identity? For a while, yeah, I did. And it cost me time I'll never get back. Time I spent focused on Jessica's suffering instead of my own healing. Do you regret it? I regret not walking away sooner. I regret giving her so much power over me, both during the relationship and after. But do I regret standing up for myself? No, never. Sophie hugged me. You're a good dad. I try. You're also kind of dramatic. Like canceling an entire wedding and leaving the country? A bit much. I laughed. Yeah, well, I've always had a flair for the dramatic. 20 years after the bachelor party, I got a message through LinkedIn from Marcus's sister, Anna. Jake, I know this is random and you probably don't want to hear from me, but I've been in therapy working through everything that happened with Marcus, and my therapist suggested I reach out to you. Not to apologize on his behalf. That's not my place. But to tell you something I think you deserve to know. Marcus was sick. Not physically, but mentally. He had been for years. Narcissistic personality disorder, the therapist says now, though he was never officially diagnosed. He sabotaged every good thing in his life because he couldn't stand to see other people happy, especially you. He was jealous of you. Always had been. You were smart, kind, successful. People liked you naturally. Marcus had to work for everything. And when he found out about your money after everything blew up, it destroyed him. Not because he felt guilty about betraying you, but because he realized he'd lost access to that money. To that life. I'm not telling you this to excuse what he did. What he did was unforgivable. But I wanted you to know it wasn't about you. You didn't cause his death. His sickness caused his death. You just happened to be the mirror that showed him what he really was, and he couldn't live with that reflection. I hope you're doing well. I hope you found happiness. You always deserved it. Anna. I read the message 3 times. Then I showed it to Emma. How do you feel? She asked. Sad. Not for Marcus exactly. Just sad that it all had to happen. Sad that he was sick and nobody helped him. Sad that Jessica got caught up with someone like that. Just generally sad. Do you wish you'd known back then? No. It wouldn't have changed anything. He still betrayed me. She still betrayed me. Mental illness explains behavior. It doesn't excuse it. Are you going to respond? Yeah. I think I will. I wrote back. Anna, thank you for reaching out. I appreciate you sharing this with me. I'm sorry Marcus was suffering, and I'm sorry your family lost him. I hope you found peace with everything that happened. I have, or at least I'm working on it. Take care of yourself. Jake. She responded almost immediately. Thank you. That means more than you know. And that was it. The absolute final chapter. The last loose end tied up. 25 years after the bachelor party, Emma and I renewed our vows. Not because we needed to, but because we wanted to. Because we'd built something worth celebrating. Sophie was grown, living in Melbourne, dating a nice person who treated her well. My parents were elderly but healthy. Emma's practice was thriving. My business was stable. We were, by any measure, successful. But more than that, we were happy. The ceremony was small, just family and a few close friends. We wrote our own vows. Emma, I said, holding her hands. 20 years ago, I was a broken person who didn't think he'd ever trust anyone again. You showed me that trust isn't about never getting hurt. It's about finding someone worth the risk of getting hurt for. You've been worth it every single day. I love you. I trust you. and I'd choose you 1,000 times over. Emma's vows made me cry. Sophie's speech made everyone cry. It was perfect. At the reception, Sophie pulled me aside. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Do you ever think about her? Jessica?" "Honestly?" "No, not anymore. She's a stranger to me now." "Do you think she thinks about you?" "Maybe, probably, but it doesn't matter." "Why not?" "Because I'm not responsible for her healing, only my own." Sophie hugged me tight. "I love you, Dad." "I love you too, kiddo." That night, lying in bed next to Emma, I thought about the path that had led me here. The betrayal, the rage, the revenge, the escape, the healing, the rebuilding. If I could go back and change it all, if I could make it so Jessica never cheated, Marcus never betrayed me, none of it ever happened, would I? The answer surprised me. No. Because that pain, that betrayal, and that terrible night, it had led me here, to this life, to Emma, to Sophie, to the person I'd become. I wasn't grateful for the pain itself, but I was grateful for what I'd built from the rubble. And in the end, isn't that all any of us can do? Take the broken pieces of our lives and build something new? Something better? I closed my eyes and let myself feel it. The quiet contentment of a life well lived. The peace of knowing I'd survived. The joy of knowing I was loved. Jessica had taken 3 years of my life, but she hadn't taken my future. I'd taken that for myself, and I'd made it beautiful.